And it's that developmental zone at the leading edge of our path. That kind of Goldilocks of development, not too easy, not too hard. It's that zone where we learn to be at our leading edge, where we have one foot in the inside of the comfort zone and one foot outside of the comfort zone, or maybe it's better to say one toe inside the comfort zone and one toe outside the comfort zone. We might be stretching ourselves sometime, but that activation at that stage is kind of the developmental zone. That's where we cultivate resiliency. So I was a little bit back and forth with the title on this one. I wasn't sure if it was, it's the Embodiment Festival. So I thought, okay, embodied resiliency. Um, Usually I title this little kind of introduction to resiliency, spiritual resiliency, simply for the fact that spirituality or spirit, the way that I use it, is always pointing to an absolute perspective, an all-inclusive perspective, a non-polarized perspective, absolute. And spirit in that sense is always already I was going to say embodied. It's that too, but it's always already resilient. There's no need to develop resiliency uh, when we align with spirit. Where we need to develop resiliency is where we're aligned with our our separate sense of self, our identifications, our beliefs, our values, and our really, from one sense, we can say egos, but that word's a little bit tricky of a word to use. Hang on, I'm just going to turn that down. But we're going to look at it. We're going to look at it in the dualistic realm, in the relative realm, where there's me over here and you over there and them over there and all of that stuff. And it's because, as separate senses of self, as the Buddhists would say, or as egoic beings, a separate sense of egoic beings with boundaries. I'm over here, you're over there, duality. Because of this really fundamental human condition, we go through life bumping into other boundaries. And we go through life having stressful moments because of that friction of boundaries. And maybe we even go through life causing friction and stress to others. And it's in those moments, when we're all chill and, hanging out, and maybe you had a good yoga session or a good meditation or a good embodiment session, and it's all good. And you've got your dinner and you've got or lunch or wherever you might be, and it's all good. Yeah, we don't need to develop resiliency. We put another log on the fire, keep the home fires burning, and it's all good. It's in moments of challenge that resiliency is something that we want to have as a resource. And the way I'm a meditation teacher, and I'm also an Aikido teacher, which is an embodiment practice, embodied conflict resolution, basically. And both of these practices, and I would assume that whatever embodiment practice you might be doing, it's the same. But these two practices that I'm talking about are high level practices. They're considered. I don't know if you can see this Japanese character here. That's Michi Do, the Tao. It's an ideogram for the way, the path. And it's not an ordinary path, a path to becoming a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, but rather it's a high level path. And it's a high level path because it every step of the way, every forward step on that path is a step of awareness, one way or another. Embodied awareness, meditative awareness, yoga awareness, like martial arts. It's developmental. And every step along that path I shouldn't say every step, sooner or later on that path, it's going to require us, our ordinary sense of self, to stretch because it's a higher sense of It's a higher path. And that means the lower sense of self inside of us, it is good, it is true, it is beautiful. It's just limited, is going to be stretched. And if it's a practice or a path or a school or a tradition or a teacher that has an approach that activates the practice up to your kind of activating on the path through awareness or embodiment, leads you to kind of the leading edge, and then lets things kind of develop there in a organic way, then it's going to be a developmental path. And it's that developmental zone at the leading edge of our path, that kind of Goldilocks of development, not too easy, not too hard. It's that zone where we learn to be at our leading edge, where we have one foot in the inside of the comfort zone and one foot outside of the comfort zone, or maybe it's better to say one toe inside the comfort zone and one toe outside the comfort zone. We might be stretching ourselves sometime, but that activation at that stage is kind of the developmental zone. That's where we cultivate resiliency. That's where we cultivate wisdom, actually, because my foot that's in the comfort zone is known. My foot that's outside of the comfort zone is unknown. And whatever emerges from there, we can kind of trust. And, it's always a koan in that sense. It's always a riddle. Am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? And we're going to look at that. Basically, I'm going to talk about 3 mistakes in developing resiliency and 3 practices for developing resiliency. And then we're going to do a simple practice in a breakout. Developing spiritual resiliency. It's the same thing for developing embodied resiliency. 3 mistakes. First mistake is in that context that I was just describing. You can think of your own embodiment practice. Let me just do a time check. Mistake number one is taking it too easy. Is preferring the comfort zone over that edge. Okay, now I'm talking about the mistakes. I'm going to talk about, when I talk about the practices, that taking it too easily is going to be transformed into kind of a healthy practice. But taking it too easy, Netflix and chill. Okay, and nothing wrong with Netflix and chill. Nothing wrong with Netflix and chill. Netflix and chill at all. But when we indulge in that, when we overdo it, nothing wrong with indulging. Nothing wrong with overdoing it sometimes. But we also need some moderation there. If we take it easy too much, then resiliency doesn't get developed. Now, I'm not, again, no judgment about taking it easy. We need to take it easy. Remember, this practice gets transformed into a healthy practice when we talk about the 3, or this point gets transformed into a healthy practice when we talk about the 3 practices. Mistake number 1 is just kind of default, taking it too easy. Mistake number 2 is kind of the opposite of that, which is pushing too hard. Pushing too hard. Let me just change my view here. And I just want to see just a front page, raise of hands. How many people, just knowing yourself, your tendency is to take it too easy? Anybody here, on a day when you're just like a bit contracted, if your tendency is to take it too easy, raise your hand. Good. How about if your tendency is to maybe on a bad day, push too hard? Like you realize afterwards, like, oh man, I overdid it. That was I really kind of burned myself out there. Great. Perfect. So these are the 2 things we need to pay attention to. And when I talk about mistakes, I basically mean we fall into these patterns unconsciously. There's a lot of momentum. We kind of our minds and our nervous systems have a lot of habits to them. We kind of fall into those ruts. And it's something to pay attention to. So if you realize, I'm taking it too easy, just bring more awareness, bring more mindfulness, get into the body, and that'll kind of automatically balance out. That's what they say in the meditation traditions about mindfulness, is that when you're out of balance, you can do a lot of things to rebalance, but really if you just activate mindfulness, and since this is the Embodiment Festival, if you just drop into the body, if you inhabit your body, for me, embodiment, I know there's a lot of definitions. It's inhabiting, but it's the physical body plus the interior. It's the interiority of our bodies, for me, is embodiment. So if you drop into that interiority with awareness, these two kind of quote unquote mistakes, they start to get balanced out. They start to get balanced out. So mistake number one is taking it too easy. Mistake number two is pushing it too hard. Mistake number three is numbing out, where we don't register what I'm doing, what we're doing at all. Okay. So when a practice or when life or when a situation or when a relationship or when at work, stress kind of takes you to the leading edge if we are unconscious when we are unembodied. Maybe it's better to say disembodied. The three kind of egoic moves is to take it too easy, meaning you kind of lose that developmental juice. You push too hard, that means you lose the self-care, or you just numb out and just kind of, space out on it all. By the way, I asked if people have a tendency to take it too easy. I asked if people have a tendency to take it too hard. Is there anybody here who relates to just kind of numbing out? And, that could include, just another glass of wine, or if you smoke, maybe smoking a bit. Yeah. So these are just different ways. Not that those are bad things at all, but, moderation would be the key. And in terms of them being quote unquote mistakes, it's a bit of a strong word. So let's hold that lightly. It just means that it's unconscious or unembodied. That I'm in my body. No, I have my body, but I'm not in my body. I have my body, but I'm not, the interior isn't awake in any given moment. Three mistakes. Take it too easy, push too hard, numb out. Three practices. They're kind of, they're related to the three mistakes. Practice number one is self-care. I put this one first and foremost because this is the caveat. No matter what minor or major challenge we might be going through, let's take care of ourselves. Yeah. And I guess one of the reasons that this is first, in the traditional, like hardcore practices like martial art and meditation, this is not the first thing that they put on the list. In fact, you got to overcome this. But I think for us modernists and even postmodernists, those of us, our societies are pretty achievement driven. And sometimes if we make a mistake, it's going to be kind of overdoing it. We got to bring in the rent and we got to do all that stuff. So it's kind of overdoing it. So self-care is super important, that you have a sensitive and complex awareness of what you need in any given moment. So practice number one is self-care. And that can mean if you're at the leading edge, if you really think in this moment I need some self-care, you kind of step back a little bit and regulate the system. What do you need? In the moment of truth, that could actually be the right thing to do. Could be a mistake. And in that moment, we won't know, but later you'll know. Practice number one, self-care. I think we all do that. Practice number two is to cultivate tolerance. So the leading edge is the leading edge because it is on the edge of being intolerable. If 1 foot in and 1 foot in the comfort zone, 1 foot out of the comfort zone, there's that developmental zone where the development, the growth is activated. There is an evolutionary tension. And it can be intense. You turn that up too much and it's just overwhelming, intolerable. But if you, again, healthy practice, healthy community, healthy maybe philosophy or values around the practices, maybe healthy guides, teachers, helpers, you're going to learn where that zone is for you. And having self-care is super important because if we overdo it, we can regret it later. Sorry, that was number one. Number two, we want to be in a place where we actually can cultivate the ability to be tolerant. Now, in meditation, this is mostly done with the mind, creating a mental container, not a mental container, excuse me, a container of awareness or container of mindfulness. And the more like you're sitting, meditating, or however you might be meditating, let's say there's a knee pain or a back pain or just some emotional pain comes up. If you can bring your mindfulness to it, to the point where that intensity starts to kind of the wave comes up, yeah. And it's like, oh my God, there's no way I can deal with it. And that's fine. In that moment, it's like, oh my God, this is just too much. It is okay to surrender. That's the self-care. But the practice at this point, think of your embodiment practice. If you get to the edge of something, it's like, this is too much. I can't hold it together. Then allow yourself to surrender as a practice. But don't surrender in that moment. Say, okay, I'm surrendering. Then take 2, 3, 4 more seconds of awareness, 2, 3, 4 more seconds of embodiment, and then let yourself back off the practice. That would be wise self-care. In that practice, when you say, okay, I'm going to surrender, and you take 1, 2, 3 or more moments of awareness or embodiment, you realize something's shifting, something like I let go, but I haven't stepped back from this edge. And something shifts, you might decide, okay, maybe I can stay with this a little bit more. Maybe I can stay with this a little more. You might go 4 seconds, 10 seconds, 12 seconds to 1 minute to 2 minutes, 10 minutes. And then if you need to ease off, you ease off. That's the development of tolerance. And when we have excuse me, I should be more specific, tolerance of discomfort, tolerance of sometimes unpleasant physical sensations, tolerance of unpleasant emotions, tolerance of unpleasant mental states, as long as awareness is there. And as long as we don't make that mistake of pushing too hard, but we're consciously working on developing tolerance, whether it looks like it or not, you are developing resiliency. You are developing resiliency. So 3 practices. Practice number 1, uh, self-care. Know what you need. Practice number 2, cultivate tolerance. Know what you can do and see if you don't have a little bit more space, just a little bit, and see what happens. Cultivate the tolerance of all that unpleasantness that can come up at the leading edge. Practice number 3, align with emergence. So if we have these 2 choices in practice, okay, I'm gonna exercise self-care, or I'm gonna really stay open and see if I can tolerate this for a few more moments. If we have those 2, how do we know which one to do in a moment of truth? Whatever answer you have now, it's going to be coming from the mind. Oh, I know when it's this, I know when it's that, I know when it's this. But the fact is, when we get to the leading edge and whatever practice we're doing, it's unknown territory. So there's nothing between my ears that really knows what to do. But what I can do is I can create the conditions for some new understanding to emerge. Aligning with emergence is like a Zen koan, where we have 2 truths that really, I don't know. I don't know which one is true, but we stay open and we hold it and we stay in that discomfort, healthy discomfort. Again, not too much, not too little, but that Goldilocks zone of development. And we stay there and something emerges. And if we get a bit burned out at that point, we back off. If it gets too easy, maybe we fine tune it a little bit more. But it's the emergence that actually informs us whether to go forward or to back off. And you can trust that. You can always trust that. What you can't trust is the mind trying to control those moments at the leading edge. All the mind can do is what it knows from the past. The leading edge is the leading edge because it's emerging in this moment. And you can trust that your system knows what to do in those emerging moments. Okay. I'm just gonna kind of summarize that, and then we're gonna do a practice, and I'm gonna introduce the practice with somebody that's gonna help me model it. Kelly, would you help me model the practice? Yeah, great. Okay, so hang on just a second. Okay, so the three mistakes once again are taking it too easy. Mistake number 2 is pushing too hard. Mistake number 3 is numbing out. Practice three practices, these transformational practices for developing resiliency at the leading edge is first and foremost, know what you need, self-care. Know what your body, know what your mind, know what your emotions, know what your energy needs. Know what you need relationally. And that'll grow and change from day to day, year to year. Number two, second practice, cultivate tolerance. That you actually go there and you feel, wow, I need a pillow or I need something. Okay, so just hang out there a little bit and see what happens. And then you always practice number one, you can always back off. That's your choice. And number three is in that tension between self-care and cultivating tolerance, stay open to whatever's emerging. Align with emergence. Okay? Is that clear? I mean, these are very simple questions or simple guidelines, let's call them, orienting practices. And at this point, I just want to, before I introduce the game, I'm just going to presence a beautiful quote from Albert Camus, who said, always go too far. It's the only place you find the truth. Always go too far. It's the only place you'll find the truth. Now, if we use this kind of leading edge as our kind of model here, too far means you go to the leading edge and you go a bit beyond. And the truth you might discover is a relative truth that, okay, that was too far. I kind of burned myself a little bit. And then you learn where that healthy edge is for you. Number one. Number two, whatever your potential is, who you are now is good, true, beautiful. Mwah. Love you, love you, love you, love you, love you. But we all have a potential that's also waiting to kind of bloom inside of us in the world. That potential is on the other side of our comfort zone. It's not on the inside of the comfort zone, it's on the other side of the comfort zone. So Albert Camus, always go too far. It's the only place you find the truth. You might realize that, yeah, that too far was actually too far. Learn my lesson. Number one. Number two, you might realize, oh my God, as I lived my life in my comfort zone, I was missing out on so much more goodness, so much more truth, so much more beauty. Oh my God. So we're going to do a very simple practice, okay? And just kind of hold this. The practice is it looks like it's not related to this, but it's completely related to this. It's something from the hey Kelly, how you doing? Is your mic open?
Yeah, hi Miles.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. It's so good to be with you again.
You're bringing tears to my eyes.
Yo, well, here we go. We're going to jump right in then. This is perfect. So we're at the leading edge. I love it. So this is from the authentic relating community. It's called the Noticing Game. I just did this recently on retreat with a handful of people here, and it's very simple, Kelly. I'm just going to say I'll start it, and I'll say sitting here, I'm noticing, and I'm going to say something about you and I. Could be about me, could be about you, could be about the energy between us. I'll say sitting here, I'm noticing, and then that I'll fill in the blank. Sentence completion. Then on your turn, you're going to say hearing that, I notice blank. And then when you're done, I'm going to say, hearing that, I notice blank. Pretty simple. Yeah, clear? Okay.
Yep.
So let me see if I can change the speaker. Okay. All right. So sitting here, I'm noticing that yeah, you're on the screen,
Oh,
that there's some two dimensions to it, I guess.
yeah. Hearing that, I notice my awareness of being on the screen, but I notice there's more than just a screen.
Yeah, hearing that, I'm actually feeling you kind of coming through the screen.
Oh, hearing that, I feel I feel in relationship
Yeah,
with you.
hearing that, I'm noticing that this relationship you're talking about, this feeling of relationship feels good.
Hearing that, I feel self-conscious that we're speaking in front of a bunch of people and in this beautiful relating way and noticing that we can do both.
Yeah, hearing that, I actually feel like I want to have more space and care for you.
Hmm. Hearing that, I felt that sense of care and space, and I
Hearing that
felt,
something.
I,
Sorry, I'm sorry to cut you
sorry,
off.
and I felt a shift.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, hearing that, I felt something drop, just like drop and open more here.
Yeah. Hearing that, I feel like opening more physically to help with this.
It's great. Hearing that, I suddenly just felt the nervousness inside. The intimacy suddenly. Oh.
Hearing that, it just makes me laugh. This is beautiful.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I said hearing that makes me laugh. It just a wave of beauty.
Yeah, hearing that too, it makes me laugh too, and also appreciate our contact.
Yeah, hearing that, I feel like we should have a call later, catch up.
Okay. All right, great. Okay. Kelly, thank you so much. All right. So that's the noticing game. Now Kelly and I are old friends. So and we haven't really chatted for a while. So it's a great opportunity. But it's just gonna go where it goes. And often it's going to be on the edge. You know, when you feel there's going to be on the edge. And remember, there's self-care, in this case, maybe even care for other. And there's also a little bit, let's tolerate this kind of unpleasant feeling. Yeah, it's simple exercise, gentle exercise. And we're going to give you all about 5 minutes to do that. Okay. Yeah. So I hope that for those who observed the noticing game, that it was that there was something there that's super simple, but something you could take away. For those who were able to do it, I hope it went well for you. Um, Often this exercise can be like a yo-yo. You feel things becoming closer and deeper, and then some suddenly, whoop, it becomes a little bit more superficial because you hit a layer or something. All good. Just stay with the practice. It's all just about noticing what's going on. To recap, the three mistakes when we're cultivating. No, when we have an intention to cultivate resiliency, we need to pay attention to three mistakes, or they're kind of, let's say, egoic moves or separate sense of self moves. Mistake number one is to take it too easy. Mistake number two is to push it too hard. And mistake number three is to numb out. And I should add, there's one more mistake here. Four mistakes. Don't use the word mistake or take the word. It's not. It's meant to be held very lightly. Okay. And three practices is the practice of self-care. Know what you need physically, emotionally, mentally, every dimension that you inhabit. Number two is to cultivate tolerance. Practicing at the leading edge is cultivating a tolerance for the discomfort. That's where resiliency is developed.
Mhm.
Resiliency is developed when when our practice takes us to the leading edge. If you're able to hold that leading edge for 2, 3 seconds, you're going to develop 2, 3 seconds of resiliency. 2, 3 minutes, 2, 3 minutes of resiliency. It's equal. And then practice number three is to align with emergence. And this noticing game was really, it was just whatever's emerging, whether it's getting closer or more intimate, more deep, or whether it's triggering something, or, that's all learning and that's all emerging. And anything that emerges at our leading edge is good. Sometimes that emergence is going to be opening up to our potential beyond that boundary. Other times that emergence is going to be contracting us back in a little bit into the comfort zone. That's a learning moment as well. Thank you, everybody. Hope to see you again soon. All the best.
Thank
Enjoy.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.